The State Department is calling out North Korea as a violator of religious freedom. They're among the 200 countries profiled in an annual report on international religious freedom. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo unveiled the report this morning, saying the U.S. is committed to promoting religious freedom around the world. Other countries signaled out include Myanmar, China, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan. Sam Brownback is the U.S. Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom. He's the first Catholic to fill the role. Welcome back to the program, sir.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to join you.
You released a report today, and the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom also has its own report ranking North Korea as the top of the list of the worst offenders. And while the U.S. is negotiating with North Korea, even though they released 3 prisoners, there are hundreds of thousands, up to 120,000 people in labor camps there. So how important is the religious freedom issue going to be in talks with North Korea?
I think it's going to be critical and foundational. And now you're seeing the first actions that the North Koreans are taking in response to the U.S. pressure is releasing a couple of the prisoners, 3 prisoners. I raised the issues of North Korea 15 years ago when I was in the Senate, and I couldn't get anybody to act. And now you're seeing this administration act and put pressure on North Korea and this gulag system that they have. It's a terrible situation for way too many people there, and it's hardest particularly on the Christians in North Korea.
Right, where, you're not even allowed to have Bibles or practice in church. Secretary Pompeo announced this morning that the U.S. is going to host a ministerial meeting to focus on advancing religious freedom. And he said it will be focused on action. Are you going to invite North Korea, Saudi Arabia, other offenders of religious freedom, or is it just going to be like-minded countries?
Well, there'll be 2 groups that will be targeted for the ministerial. One is going to be like-minded countries because we want to build an alliance, a coalition of the like-minded to push forward religious freedom around the world. And there are a number of countries that will do that. It will also have countries in here that are moving forward on religious freedom, that they've got not a very good track record on it, but they're willing to work on it, and they're showing actual positive steps moving forward. So we're not releasing a list of who all is going to be invited, but those are the categories of the countries that we look forward to working with. And I think this thing is really going to ignite this issue globally, where you've got over 70% of the people of the world live in countries with substantial religious freedom restrictions. We're hopeful of really changing that number.
The Secretary also noted that the situation in Myanmar, where you visited last month, saying that the violence against the Muslim Rohingya minority was the worst. Christians in Kachin in northern Myanmar are also impacted. How will this ministerial meeting actually physically help them?
Well, hopefully it's going to bring global action to bear on Burma, what they're doing. That's ethnic cleansing of a religious minority at least, and probably far worse when its final determination is made. But we need to work in concert with the global community. And here, too, the Chinese need to start stepping up. They've let this situation take place along their border with a neighbor, and have not done much. Now, recently they started to speak up a little bit on the Kachin. But this is a situation where we need a global response to this horrific situation that's taking place at the hands of the government, and a long-standing effort by this government in Myanmar, the military leadership in particular, to push out these ethnic religious minorities.
One of the challenges, not just there, but for Christians in Iraq, has been receiving the aid that has been earmarked for them. What is the status of the money for the Christians? How long after this summit would it take to get money to Rohingyas and Christians there?
Well, it has been a difficulty in northern Iraq and that Nineveh Plains region. The Vice President made a big announcement on this earlier. That money has been reprogrammed into the minority religious areas, particularly for the Christians and the Yazidis in Iraq. There have been, conferences about how to get it to the operators for as far as the nonprofit groups, the faith communities in those areas. But this has been an adjustment, and it's taken time to get it going. I'm starting to hear about some of the early opportunities that are starting to hear about these funds. but it's just not really fully moved yet, and it needs to move and get going.
Well, we'll be asking you about it.
You've tried to make the government move in a different direction. Yeah. Keep doing it.
Okay, we will. Sam Brownback, the U.S. Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom, thank you so much for coming on the program.
My pleasure, and I hope your audience prays for all the people that are being persecuted.
Absolutely. Thank you.